Hey guys. So you may think that you may think that you've tuned into just a yogi doing burpees in his basement, or now known as just a yogi, but you would be mistaken. Tonight is the Squirrel Sniper Show. I'm just along for the ride, keeping things in check, keeping things flowing. Tonight I'm the sidekick. Um, so Sniper's going to have a presentation. Checking out my mustache. Um, hey Stitch, how are you? How's school? Um, and he will pause. He'll have time for questions and answers. Welcome home, runner boy. How was Mount Kilimanjaro? Did you shout my name? You didn't shout my name, did you? Um, I hope it was an adventure of your lifetime so far. I hope you have more adventures coming up too. I'm going to give just a couple mentions of upcoming things. Tomorrow is the regular 5 a.m. talking about stuff, Course Miracle stuff. Lucy's going to pull cards tomorrow afternoon. Runner boy was barely able. I find that hard to believe. You probably sprinted to the top, did a little dance, took some photos, planted a flag, declared yourself king of the world, planted a flag, and said, "This is now ordained runner boy land forever." Um, so Lucy's pulling cards in the afternoon. In the evening, Odom is coming up. We're going to talk recovery, gardening, and answering all questions about things. I'll check it out, runner boy. Hey, Marlon. Appreciate those trap comments, man. Check them out. Runner boy, what do you think of those traps? Hey, Michael. So I'm sorry you hate school, Stitch. Um, what else we got going on? Friday, Randy Creel. It's a 100-miler expert, an ace. I know he's done over 2,000 milers, many more than I have. I might have done more ultras altogether, although he'll catch me soon since I'm not racing anymore. He's going to talk about cancer as a healing path. Diagnosed with cancer, changed his life. He would not be ultra running. He would not be plant-based had he not gotten cancer. Imagine that. Saturday Goga. Don't know if there's going to be room for any singing, guys. We got a busy schedule. Boy says, Dundee, they belong to a yogi. Check out those traps, guys. Maybe it should have changed my title name. Something about traps. All right. And then we got more stuff next week. Great philosopher coming up on Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't remember which. And then Friday. I think it's Friday. I'll have to check. Anyway, we got stuff. When Sniper is ready, he's going to come up. No hurry, Sniper. Hey, Joe. Just a yogi and his traps. I like that. Runner Boy says, well, probably time for me to sleep. Have a good night's sleep, Runner Boy. Welcome home. I'm glad you're safe. Glad you had a good time. I'll be checking out your photos. Hey, Kay. Didn't you make that joke before? I think someone did. If it wasn't you, it was someone else. Zipper says, quick breath if you want. Gotcha. Otherwise, anyone want breath work before we start? Or are you in a hurry? You want to just get the Sniper? Hey, Jessica. Jessica, welcome into the Squirrel Sniper Show and his sidekick Yogi. I got the easy job tonight. I just get to sit there and look pretty. But Doogie, how are you, man? Did I get your name right? Yogi Master Roshi. Nice to see you, my friend. I appreciate you coming back. Doogie says, yes, amazing. Every once in a while, I stumble upon a correct pronunciation. Master Roshi, he is goaded. It's nice of you to say. All right, guys. As you know, as I hope you know, this is Squirrel Sniper. Squirrel Sniper is a long time friend of mine, friend of my channel, friend of our channel. He's a great supporter, an awesome moderator. And I think everyone's always intrigued by comments that you leave, advice that you offer. So we're taking Tuesdays a bit to get to know all the things that Sniper finds fascinating. If you know Sniper, you know that he loves dowsing. That it would be fair to say it's a spiritual practice for you.
Almost definitely, yeah. You get to that point where everything that you come to a conclusion, there is something that you just can't put your finger on, and so you're always intrigued, and that's the whole point of life, is to be intrigued and ask questions. If you haven't got a question, then, well, I don't know.
Right. You might have heard me mention Anthony Robbins. Not a huge fan of his, but he has a great line. The quality of your life is based upon the quality of your questions.
Of your questions, indeed. Yeah. I mean, as long as you've got a question that is open-minded, and open-ended, it will lead you to so many different possibilities,
Right. So tonight's a two-part, right? Section 1, section 2.
Yeah, well, there's probably about 3 or 4 parts in it in total, but I've got a couple of questions. So before I even start, I'll put the first question out just for the people that are in the chat there. When you first hear the word dowsing, what's the first kind of image that comes into your mind?
Right.
Yeah, exactly that. Can you think of any ancient practices that would have used it?
Searching for water, specifically. That always for me, the original thought for me was always going to water.
Hence the term water witching. That's where it originates from. But of course, it goes much deeper into that, and we'll get to that in a second. So it's a good start anyway.
Yeah, right, that's what Kat said, water, and Jessica says water as well.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks everyone for coming here. You didn't have to be here, but you are. That's very kind. I'm going to take you all on a journey that some may have heard of it before, or even seen it practiced. But if you haven't, it will hopefully give you a good idea. When you think of dowsing, you probably think of an old bloke walking through a field, with a couple of rods looking for water. But it goes further back than that, and superstition as well. It's more complex, and certainly against a lot of religious beliefs. And we'll get to that in a bit, because that plays a huge role on the suppression of all of this. But my goal tonight is not to convince anyone about dowsing, if it's real or not, in a scientific way. I want people to think. That's why I'm going to plant some seed. You can take it or leave it. It's up to you. We're going to explore the historical narrative and to understand how people have believed for such a long time that this kind of ancient practice with perception and your intuition, for searching for truths, whether it's unseen, whether it's looking for something in particular. The story, it starts off before the even term of dowsing even came into play. The impulse for us for looking for hidden things has always been there. It's always been there. And that certain individuals using tools, could help that cause, to actually look for something that is certainly not there, visible. And that's why the church didn't like it. It was a direct, no to the first commandment. They should only be their God. But when you think, if that came through Moses, and Moses, then goes through to the Muslim, you then question, whose God are we talking about? We're talking about the same God, yet both factions are fighting against each other about this same God. And so there has to be a question that there is only one source, that everything comes from. Yet we have been programmed to not even take that into consideration, that there is their own belief, and not a collective belief. So, while direct, evidence isn't scarce in antiquity, but there are some precursors. We've got shamans, priests, oracles. They all used wands. Even the priest, even the Pope has a staff. It's a form of power in a physical sense, but it's kind of a bit more esoteric than that. You've got various methods that the shamans or witch doctors at the time would use, maybe throwing stones, ruins, bones, and they will interpret what they see as a pattern. There's always a pattern, and this is what's, whether it's a sound or an image or a color, it's these hidden patterns that we don't see on a daily basis that can answer a lot of questions that we have. But it's how we, in the long term, break it down and understand what these actual answers mean. We have to always be asking the similar questions as a yes and a no, just like the cards. It's a yes and a no answer with the rods. So it's a particular way of asking a question. It's a question answering for another question. It opens up so you get to see the bigger picture. I digress. We've got, we go back in history. The earliest recorded was biblical. We'll go to Moses and his staff. He was said to strike a rock and produced water. So while it's not dowsing in its sense, the connection between the staff and finding water is written. Or its ability to manifest water is written. Then we go slightly forward in time. We've got the Greeks, we've got the Romans, we've got the Druids. They all used staffs. We've got the Roman caduceus, which is the staff and the entwined serpents. This all kind of symbolizes revelation and guidance from using an unknown energy. It's an idea of a tool accessing the unseen. The key here is that there's always been a connection between the immediate visible and what actually isn't present. There is always something underlining from what we see. We may see one thing, but we interpret that thing many different ways. But there is really one thing that thing is trying to portray. Yet we can see it in so many different false illusions because of past beliefs or expectancies of what this thing should be. It's going off in a bit of a tangent there, but so this brings us back to the understanding that we feel this unpredictable, unbalancing force that we want to tap into and find the balance. When you first start, you realize when there's more from what we see with the eye, it opens up so many different doors to what your initial belief here actually is. It's almost a gateway of dropping your ego instantly because you realize everything else here is an illusion. The physical that you actually see here is here, but you're also here in a completely different realm. And once you're starting activating with that realm, you come to realize that the physical realm just isn't the only thing that's here. And a lot of people are stuck in that mindset that this is what's here, this is it, this is all that's here. You know, a lot of things are impossible because it's made of material. But no, it's not. You know, it's manifesting. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be that obvious. But everything has a goal. You know, everything is for the good, no matter what. That's my place. So the core understanding of where we get dowsing from originates from Germany in 16th century in the mines. And the miners at the time, they didn't have any geological surveys. That they were desperate to find these raw ores. So they used the ancient technique of the bough, which is usually a willow or something that has a high water content in it, which is the willow. You usually find them next to rivers and streams and high water. They use them for looking for silver, for lead, for tin, especially tin. And it was the twitching of the rod that they believed had a sympathetic attraction between the ore and the stick. First of all, they thought the stick and the ore had this attraction. But we know now it's more than that. It's much more than that. The movement of the rod was a manifestation of an unseen force. not the materials that it's looking for. And you're thinking of that source, that material. Because you're thinking of that material, you are tapping into the unseen force, and the unseen force is guiding you to that material. It's not the other way around. It's not like a magnet. You're actually using your intent to seek this out. So you're tapping into what is actually unseen. Now, this brings us to religious and a big intellectual controversy. Because as dowsing grew, it didn't just stay into the minds. By the 17th century, it was completely scrutinized by the Catholic Church. It wasn't just a debate about a stick. It was a completely deeper theological conflict. Because they saw dowsing as a direct violation, as I said, of the first commandment, which is pretty controlling when you think that's the first commandment. Not for yourself to being accessing source and having to go through a third party. That was what the whole issue was. They feared it became, it was because the rod's movements couldn't be explained by a natural force. And they feared it was a divine force, and therefore they said it was satanic. And so that led on to, pretty much the Inquisition and how many lives were lost between there and then. And this was all about using our own intuition at the end of the day. So many people were burnt at the stakes, hung, all for looking inside and not following an external power. It's a very controlling world that we've had in our history, when it comes to our own thinking and minds. On
Still.
how we yeah, absolutely. Some people can't see it as that, and they will argue, and but until you look at history and see how we have been manipulated and moved into this direction and this direction, maybe not all of us, but there are pockets of us that have been manipulated by certain groups, and it's how people make a lot of money out of it. There is a whole market. Again, we're going off subject again. So this switches from the ore to the water, and it became known as water witching. As miners became more formalized with geological dowsing for materials, as that faded, it was still necessary to find water. And especially, we have now got a lot of adventuring into places in the world where it's the unknown. So Australia's, the Americas. And so they actually use the dowsing along their way to find water sources and to find gold, believe it or not. The gold rush in Australia, some of the largest founds were found with dowsing techniques. In rural areas, a dowser became an essential figure. Unlike metal in the ground, it's quite scarce, but water can be pretty much found anywhere if you know how to look for it. You don't. a good dowser doesn't even need to have rods because he will know the terrain. Just by looking, you'll see the moss that only survives when it has a very low, a very high water level. So it's the intuition as well as intent, when you're using dowsing. It's a lot more. This is what I have found anyway. It's about learning as you go along, and you can confirm, of course, you walk up to the moss and you start digging next to the moss, and you can put your rods next to it, and you'll find that you were right, first of all, but it's only when you dig it, you see it, you're right as well. So your gut was always right before you even said the question. That's how intuition kind of works. But people dismiss that almost instantly, and they go with what someone has told them, not what they have learned before, or it's a mechanism that we have all been taught wrongly. We have to experience these things ourselves. This is what I'm saying. This is all about experience, whether it's good or bad. We have to learn experience, so therefore we can then emphasize to the bad things. It does come with a confirmation bias, of course, because a lot of people remember the hits, and they will also dismiss, the non-hits. So that's the kind of the crunch of the questioning of, if you're considering that the church fears dowsing, what do you think was more of a threat to them? Was it the actual dowsing rods themselves at the time, or was it the idea that anyone could tap in that mysterious power that they believed that they were in control of?
Right. Probably at the top, it's all about power, and the top relied upon the fear of those lower, convincing them this was the work of the devil. So, those on those lower levels probably thought it's the work of the devil, because those at the top said, in order to consolidate power, it's the work of the devil.
Yeah.
Would be my thoughts for that.
Well, it kind of now brings us into the age of skepticism. How we all like to be skeptic on one thing or another. Well, the evidence suggests that the rods move because of us. As I said, not because of a repelling of the water or the actual metal that you're looking for. It's kind of fascinating because it actually opens up a whole new question. It doesn't close it. It kind of frames it, if anything. This is why I say to the people, oh, this is all fake and everything, and I said, have you tried it? Oh no, I've never tried it. I'm like, well, please, it's like riding a bike. If you've never experienced riding a bike, you don't know whether you're going to enjoy it or not. Can you ride a bike? I don't know. You've never ridden a bike. But to say that you can ride a bike and you've never ridden a bike,
or worse, to say that you don't believe in people riding bikes, it's fake.
Yeah, it's fake. Exactly that. But a lot of people are scared to find out that they have either been lied to all their life through a belief, or They're afraid to question their belief once they have found that they have an ability that they were told wasn't there. That's the cognitive dissonance that a lot of people are approaching this kind of field. Because they are skeptic in the first place, the field allows that to happen. It's almost like the door is already closed for them because of the skepticism. Because it's all a thought process.
Right.
It's all to do with your intuition. It's all to do with your intention. Now, they have skeptic intentions.
Absorber
Kind of,
effect.
exactly. You know, it's a double-edged sword for some. Now, we have this thing called the ideomotor concept. And this is fascinating because ideo means idea or mental image. And motor, of course, means movement. So putting the two together, it's the movement of a mental image. So once you have that mental image, you will only get that movement when that is present. You're locked in. So this is why, you know, you've already said a lot of people use it for dowsing, for water. They're looking for water. The intent is looking for water. They're not looking for anything else. They're looking for water. I can switch it and go, I'm looking for electricity. I'll find electricity. I'll switch it and I'll go, I'm looking for an empty pipe. I can find an empty pipe. I can ask how deep it is, and it will give me a depth. I can then dig down and give you an estimate on how far you've got to dig down.
So the field of intent is impartial.
No, it's the fact that that's exactly what you're asking for.
Right.
It's a key, you know. But you also you have to be balanced. You have to be not with rage. You have to be separate from everything because you're just asking this one question: where's the water? So it brings us to how it actually works. Well, it's a concept where the person's subconscious thoughts or expectations cause very tiny involuntary muscle movement. When someone believes that they're actually over water, so we get going to this belief again. It's a feeling, but that feeling has been given to you. It's not your own feeling. You've already tapped into the unseen. The unseen is telling you the water is here through your thought process. And that then, if you were to reverse engineer that thought, our thinking process has so much more power than what we actually imagine, if we actually used it correctly. We've got a few examples on how we use the ideomotor effect. You may have heard of the Ouija board where people put their finger on a little planchette and it moves around the table, or they put a finger on a glass. Well, it's the person's expectations make the glass slide on the table, but the user isn't actually lying when they say they genuinely can't feel the object moving on its own. They think one of the other people are moving that because they're not moving it, yet it's moving. And each of those that put their finger on are having this same feeling because they are not moving the glass with their feeling. They can feel the glass moving and they're having to move their finger with the glass. But even that process is moving the glass. So if we understand how the ideomotor affect, it doesn't dismiss the experience of dowsing at all. The magic isn't an external phenomenon of Earth. It's an internal one. With the mind, the dowsing rod becomes an example of how the internal world shapes our external reality. How we can tap into these ideas that there was no way that we could conjure up in the physical. It's almost like hyperperception is a word that I kind of come across quite recently. It's almost like an act of an embodied belief. You believe it so much and you make it so. It could be after many years of practice, and deep focus, that you would be able to unconsciously pick up on subtle clues from just looking around. You wouldn't even need rods. I think that's where we're leading to. I think we are all having this enlightenment, some more faster than others, but we are at this point, I think, where with so much technology that is around us, I'm not saying technology is not good, but it could be used for a better reason. I think we're running away without seeing the actual possibilities of what we've got already. There's a lot of things that we still, we're pumping out this technology at a huge rate, but do we need to keep up with it at the moment? There kind of be an enjoyment for what we have already. If it's not broken, why fix it? Kind of mentality.
Right.
We don't need to have to change overnight, but it seems like we are. And everyone will have to conform to a degree. But it will be over a generation. And then once the next generation is born, they just won't know what anything in history was like to have a choice. You know, without having to have technology, everything will be technical. No one would ever send a postcard ever. There won't be the ability to send a postcard or a letter.
Supposedly, some children can't write in cursive any longer.
Yeah. Why would they need to? Unless it's to sign their name. You know, if they get them to sign their name, they learn how to sign their name. My daughter came back and they were, when she was about 9 at school, and they said, "We learned how to sign our signature today, Daddy." I was like, "Really? School's got you doing that already, have they?" So, another question. Does the body know before the subconscious mind?
I'm going to give a strange answer, as not thinking there's a difference between the body and the subconscious mind. That it's just mind. So that would be my answer. I'm kind of curious what people would say in the chat.
Well, I think our body is our tool for our subconscious mind. Just like the rods. Yet we don't know how to activate it. We don't know how to use our bodies correctly to tune in. Because, you know, we are a receiver, we're batteries, we're energies. We communicate every time we even meet someone at a bus station and we don't even talk to them. Our energy is still entwined, whether we say anything or not. So this just brings us to the alchemical process. Get me lights on. Right, in a way, dowsing is a modern day form of alchemy. It's where the process of the dowser's intuition works to make the invisible visible. Turning a question into a physical answer. It's a powerful metaphor for our own ability to find what we're looking for, both in the physical world and within our own observations. If our subconscious thoughts can cause physical movements, what other unseen forces or intuitions might guide us in our daily lives every day? What do you think?
Could you say that one more time? I want to make sure that I get this straight.
Yeah. If our subconscious thoughts can make physical movements, as in the rods,
Right.
what other unseen forces or intuitions that we manifest can guide us through our daily lives?
Untold, I would think.
Hmm?
Untold. You know, I don't even think that we've bothered to chart the potentiality of what can be expressed and searched for in such a way.
Yeah, well, we have our gut instincts that kicks in.
Right.
We have our our own ability. It's been told to us, and it's how we react to it. And if we don't know how to react to it, we don't know that this is the signal for that exact moment. Sometimes we can just walk straight through it into the danger. And it's only until after on reflection do you realize, oh, I had that feeling.
Hmm.
Something was up. Well, we all get that.
Would it be
Everyone I've
amazing?
spoken to.
Would it be amazing if they taught that in school at a young age?
Yeah. This is why I say intuition and intent has never been taught at school. Because it tells you who you are straight away. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions.
I think they do. I think some people have been waiting
Cool.
for it. I told them. I kept telling people to
Hold on.
that you were going to have questions and answers, so we wouldn't have to stop. All right, guys, what do you got for Sniper? Questions? Tiger King, you said you had a question. Let's definitely make sure that it is related to dowsing and all things related to dowsing. The
Hi,
beginning.
Debs.
The beginning.
Mm.
What caused someone to pick up a stick and search for something?
For me personally,
And well, let's trace it all the way back to the very beginning when we were in need and someone thought, someone was compelled, someone got the intuition that we could be guided.
well, they've been using them, all the way through Sumerian times, depicting, as
Right.
the earliest image of any fragment of Historia. It becomes apparent that they were dealing with the unseen forces, and it seems to be that only the elite at the time were privy to this, and it's only through the priests and the royal priests that were allowed to do this you can understand how they didn't want the average man to be able to tap into this knowledge.
Right.
Therefore, they scared the bullcrap out of them.
Always amazes me though that there was at one point that original intuitive push, try this. That no one, there was a point in time when no one had ever taken rods or a stick and did anything like that. And then somewhere, probably across like the 100th monkey, that it was, got that intuition, try this. And they did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got two questions, one from Joanna, one from Kat. Joanna says, Sniper, people have used dowsing rods in paranormal areas. What are your opinion on this practice?
Yeah, as again, it's you are tapping into the unseen, and where you are is, you with your intent, you are asking questions, and it's a yes no answer. With the rods, very precise, really, and it is all to do with the questions that you put forward. Lucy will fully understand that. You can get a question that is half a yes and half a no, and therefore it's a struggle to even interpret anything. But yeah, absolutely.
So Kat
graveyards
says, yep, if all they need is intent, do I still need special rods?
if it's all to do with intent, no, as I say, rods is just it's an amplifier. You can use a pendulum, just like Debster says. It's something that indicates for you. I used to know a gentleman who basically had one rod, and the one rod would basically it had a spring on the end, and the end of the spring would just basically vibrate like this, and he could tell whether or not it was a yes or no by how vibrating it was. If it was a very regular small pulse, it was a no. But then if it was a quite a vibrant one, it was a yes. So it doesn't have to be, crossing over, especially with a pendulum. When you first try it, you'll see that it'll either go backwards and forwards, or it will go round and round in a circle. It would be either one of those two.
Right.
You
So
can
that's
also get cards with kind of like a pie chart and questions on the pie chart, or answers on the pie chart, I should say. And you can ask questions, and it'll actually go over the answers that is appropriate that you're answering the questions for. There's a lot of psychic detectives that use different packs of these cards. They're looking at the psychology. They're looking at lots of different, trauma and what that person has been involved with. It could be maybe 6 or 7 cards with 30 or 40 answers on each card. It can
so
go
that
quite depth into it.
that answered a bit Deb's first question. She says similar to a pendulum sniper.
Yeah, yeah. It's, as I say, it's how the answer is produced to you. Question: what do you like to use the rods for now? Answering questions about where I'm taking myself. I kind of, yeah, it's helping me along my journey.
Debs says, is the rod copper?
Yes, yeah, my rods are copper.
Joanna says, did they use sticks rather than metal for dowsing rods in the old days?
Yes, because finding metal was quite hard at the time, and anyone could walk up to a tree and take a bough off a tree and use that bough. It was a different way of doing it. It was like almost like a Y shape. You held the two ends basically out, kind of almost like this, and the Y shape, the piece would be sticking out. And when you came over to water, it would either flick up or it would flick down. Each person is completely different. It's not as if one person has learnt it from another person. It's just how it appears. There isn't a right way, there isn't a wrong way. It's how you interpret it. A lot of people have said, "Oh, when the rods cross over, that means a no." I said, "Well, I always start out with my intent, and I always give some questions first of all to confirm that I am connected to the unseen, as it were. And I can throw a trick question in there to say, is my name Philip? Do I call myself Philip? And of course it would put it would the rods would go in the opposite direction for a yes, completely, because that's not my intent. My intent is, my name isn't Philip. I don't go by the name of Philip. No one calls me Philip.
How
Um,
how similar is muscle testing, kinesiology, to the rods?
I think muscle testing is similar, but it doesn't attach itself to your subconsciousness. It's more your consciousness on what is present at that moment. I would also say the same thing about lie detectors. Some very good people have easily managed to get through a lie detector because they are using their intent. Their intent is to lie to the lie detector, yet where in this reality, when you're given a lie detector, your brain is going left and right. I don't want to tell a lie. It's going to show me. It's going to say a lie. You wouldn't have that in your subconsciousness.
Our friend Sean says, I work with water main utilities. Workers use the dowsing rods. I believe it can work, but everyone I've seen uses them or just using them to guess. Most people don't know how to use them accurately.
Yeah, I can say that. I could say that. I've worked with an elderly chap that was part of an archaeology survey, and he's called in occasionally to mark out graves, and he is probably 9 times out of 10 pretty much within a meter from what they're actually looking for. He's very into the ley lines, of course, energies that can't be seen but can be easily picked up through intent. Yet again, you know.
Yesterday, Joanna asked me my thoughts on ley lines, and I said, you know what? I'm going to defer that question because I think Cypress is going to have something to say about it. And
Yeah.
now she says, is dowsing on the same level as ley lines in the sense certain areas of ground are more spiritually live than other areas?
Well, ley lines aren't straight, even though that you see them on maps and what they're depicted. They go from one source to another source across the country. That is true. That is true. But they're joining the end of the country on the coastline, the furthest ley line point, and they're drawing a straight line through. And with doing that, that gives a mathematical design on the country. So the 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 most northern and south ley line and the most easterly westerly part of the UK, when intersected, is Stonehenge. And then all the other ley lines that run through the country go through these four pathways that come off of Stonehenge. So there's hundreds.
How did they first locate ley lines?
Well, they realized that the Druids had certain sacred areas, and they were all located on the ley line. The church instantly took these positions over, and they put their own church on top. This is why always see yew trees in graveyards, because the yew and the oak tree were all part of the druid. It's the oldest symbol for druids is the oak tree. And it was their stamp of kind of power, and almost like a curse, as it were, on the areas of the actual energy that was already here, by putting a four-cornered trap, as it were, on top of an energy node. Now you'll find that some of the big churches, cathedrals, you'll see a rainbow over the top on certain times of, when the weather is exactly right. That's because the ley lines, where they have the nodes where two ley lines intersect, it creates like a vortex of energy. And if you're lucky enough to observe a rainbow long enough, you'll see a rainbow rotate 360 degrees around that node. And they will always appear on the same spot because the nodes never change.
Um,
And the ley lines, they snake their way through the countryside, through these specific areas, different causeways, different monuments that have been put in place. It's very interesting. Even hospitals are built on top of ley lines.
huh. I read a book on Aboriginal shamanism, and they talked about the dreaming, and he pointed out Sydney to a shaman pointed out Sydney to his pupil and said, "What do you see?" He said, "I see a bustling city." He said, "Look deeper, and you see that the city was built upon the dreaming. That the dreaming allowed the city to be built based upon intent. The intent was in the land to begin with. Otherwise, the city wouldn't be there."
It wouldn't be there. Yeah.
So, do you think you could relate the dowsing with the intent with the dreaming that the Aboriginals? I know that you have an affinity towards the Aboriginal shamanism,
Yeah.
the dreaming as well.
Well, I think dreaming, it certainly is a concept that we don't even look into. We don't look into dreaming at all. We completely, we don't even. I think because a lot of the time we don't remember some of our dreams, and that we have been drilled out of us from a very young age that it's just imagination, and we lose that sense of imagination as we go along.
Sean says, "Does tectonic activity or excavation and development change or move the key lines?"
I think both. I think there has been some stories that, especially in England, where historically a lot of energy, witchcraft, especially the Druids. A lot of occult in the Irish. The secrecy. You know, I think Ireland is, there's something about Ireland that is the epicenter of everything magical.
Thin
Now,
place.
sorry?
A thin place.
It's because that we've been told from a very young age to ridicule, especially in the UK. There's one nation that has been the butt of every single joke in my lifetime, and that was the Irish. You had to ridicule. If you're going to say a joke, it was okay to say any you know, any joke. The Irish joke was the most commonest thing to say in England and Scotland. Looking back on it, it was like, well, it's there's hiding something from Ireland, and it is the mystic. It's the mystical part of this world, in my opinion.
You know anything about Finhorn Garden?
No.
I believe it's off the coast of Ireland. Very rocky. Maybe it's Scotland, but I think it's Ireland. Very rocky. Very little soil.
Yeah.
Almost an impossibility for things to grow. And yet
It's almost volcanic. Yeah.
It's actually world famous for the beauty of its garden. And it is entirely on working with the earth itself, cooperating with the earth, as well as the elementals, and whatever invisible forces. Whenever I think of Ireland, some spots in, I always think, and you and I have talked about this before, those thin places, the thinnest veil between this world and whatever is on that other side. And in Ireland, sometimes I think they might get so thin that one can easily walk through, which is why they're legendary for little people.
Exactly. You know, and we have really been indoctrinated to ridicule such a thing from such a young age. You know, that it allows us to dismiss the easiest, simplest thing that is connected to it. You know, straight away.
Joanna said, I wonder if ley lines are in pyramids.
For sure. Yeah, most definitely. I believe the pyramid is the epicenter of this realm. It is the hub in a cartwheel. Everything will rotate around Egypt. Whether it's physiological or physical, everything eventually goes back to Egypt. On every piece of money that we have, you'll see the pyramids, especially in America. The pyramids plays a huge part. Yeah, you're right the way over there. What are you doing over there with pyramids? Hey? On every dollar bill. Why would you have the pyramids on the dollar bill?
Right. I got the Eye of Horus tattooed on my back.
Yeah.
Sometime we need to talk about that, the connection of the money, maybe the some of the early presidents being sworn in office with the Masonic Bible, and the the whole origin of the United States based upon those hidden traditions that people don't really talk about.
Absolutely. Well, you only have to look on Google Earth, and take a little look over New York, Manhattan, over Washington, and just have a look at the floor layout of the roads and the construction and what design and patterns that emerge that you see. Everything is there for a reason. It's like a program within a program. It's a script. It's a world script that's being played out, and you walk on it every day without knowing. We have the 3 cities within a cities. We have the City of London. We have Washington City. We have the Vatican City. All 3 have a dome.
Marlon wants to know, says, aren't there way more pyramids in Central and South America, though?
Yeah, for sure. And also, you'll find them in Syria. You'll find them in China.
Connection or random?
Oh, no, they're all connected. They're all connected because they're all, like the question that I sent you earlier, you'll find that they all have a reason. And it's a mathematical equation to why we're here. It's a calendar system for forwards and backwards in time. The measurements of the pyramids inside were all measured to the 1,000th of an inch by a famous person in the early 1910s, 1920s, and those still measurements are used today because they were so precise. They really did their research back then when they were actually doing some investigations. Now you'll find that the Egyptian, all the archaeology in Egypt is controlled massively. You won't hear anything new, and even the information that has come out, you have to use your discernment.
Debs just
X-raying from underneath the pyramids, a mile down from a side-on view. Come on, we can't even go 6 foot underground for X-rays, and they're saying they did this from a satellite. There's always a narrative if they're giving you information. If you're looking for information, you'll search for the truth. But when someone gives you the information, you have to use your discernment. Especially on subjects where, it's quite apparent it's controlled from the very top. A lot of the institutes, as I say, want to hold on to a narrative. The moment some information comes out that breaks that narrative, really, they are on a damage control from day one. You get character assassinations. It goes all the way to control the narrative.
Debs had mentioned that also the Washington Monument and the triangle from here to Italy to UK triangle and Bermuda Triangle where people vanish.
Well, again, Bermuda Triangle, I'm not saying that there aren't these areas. There are phenomena where sulfur arises from underground volcanoes and produces this phenomenon where no matter what is floating on the surface will sink. It's natural science. You just lose your buoyancy. No matter how buoyant you are, you will sink. It's when there's too much of a gas that's rising at that time. It can sink whole ships. And it's just an earthquake that's rumbling under the surface. It's just creating a gas. So we have these phenomena. But I would also say, look in the direction of where NASA fire all their rockets. There's a lot to be spoken for why no one's allowed to go to the Bermuda Triangle. And if they are, then maybe they are witness to something prevy.
I don't hear much about it the way we used to.
No. Well, China themselves have their own Bermuda Triangle. They call it the Red Dragon Triangle. And that's also 70 miles from their space station launch facility. So you do try and put two together, and you put it on a bit of paper and you put it on the back of your mind. You know, it's
You and I talked about this a long time ago, if I remember correctly, off topic from the from Dowsing, but the Philadelphia experiment.
yeah.
Some
Well,
odd
if it's
things.
a story, it's a great story. You know, it's the same as the Montauk project
Right,
or
right.
the Looking Glass project.
I have a
Project
book.
Artichoke. You know, how many projects? All these conspiracy theories, they all come from the military or the navy. You know, it's it's not as if it's come from a professor from a rich family. It's all come from governmental bodies. So to say that they're going to be conspiracy, it's a cover version of a 20% of truth and 80% lies. There's always this 80-20 relationship in everything that we do. You know,
Right.
from 80% of the room is a walkway, yet we only walk in 20% of the room all the time. That's an underlining bit of rule, and not many people understand that rule, but it happens in everything, you know. And if we can tap into that 80-20, then we can almost manipulate to what we want. As long as it's the right thing, we're on the right track. As long as we're not harming anyone else, as long as we're not gaining from anyone, as long as that person gains with us, we're on the right track. And
Right.
using these unseen aids to help you along shouldn't be dismissed or ridiculed just because the other person either can't or doesn't want to, or just feels like that it shouldn't be done because of their own beliefs.
Adam and then Sean piggybacked on that. Said the three atlas is very interesting too. 3-eye atlas.
Yeah.
Not really familiar with that.
No, that's the incoming body from the other side of the sun at the moment. Its path is its trajectory. We will, I think, by the end of September, I think it's September the 15th, it'll be the closest to Mars it will ever get. I don't think we'll see any visible signs, because at that point we will be further round in a kind of, we will see maybe an effect down here, but not up there, if that makes any sense. Now, what that will be, because it's attaching itself to Mars. Mars is the planet of war. So I feel a little bit of unrest is going to happen, right? It's already starting in some countries, like Nepal. Nepal is the government has folded, and the people have been, for 25, 30, 40 years, it's been repressed. And some say it may be the end of communism, but they're so close to China, we don't really want to talk politics on here, but
Right.
The Chinese have always had something against the Nepalese, but yet
Hey,
we shall see how that unfolds.
Tiger King has a question for you. He says, do you think there's life out there? What's been asking you? I'm assuming he means extraterrestrial.
Alien. Do you
Aliens.
think? Let's try to think there are other life out there. No.
Interdimensional?
It's energy. And what we perceive as energy. I think we are in this realm that will we will understand things through feeling. We will communicate through feeling and thought, not necessarily through sight or sound. This is apparent when you're under hallucinogenics. You'll completely understand what I'm talking about. But when you're not under hallucinogenics and you're also in this realm, you start to communicate with feelings. And that is the energy, the frequency that is there. Now, interdimensional, I will say yes. And I think Earth is the center of the universe. Therefore, it's the most important place. And that's why we are the most important things. And yet we're told we are the most insignificant. Everything is reversed. Everything is the opposite. It's inverted when it comes to those thoughts. The other worlds, to me, Tiger Moon, are physically celestial bodies that we observe as timepieces, like hands on a clock. They mark out moments in time, and they are responsible for how we react down here according to when and where you were born and under what planetary alignment. We are all energy, and energy is never lost. It's just transferred, and transferring the energies to us on those certain days, or taking energy away from you on those certain days.
Sean
Can you
had
jump
asked.
timelines, present, past, and future? I personally haven't. I feel like some of us have, though, with the Mandela effect. I'm 100% sure that Dolly had braces in James Bond, and that it was always life is like a box of chocolates, not life was a box of chocolates. I remember the VW sign having a line between the V and the W. But none of those are in this reality, and they never have been in this reality at this moment in time. Yet for me and thousands of others that remember this, we can only say that we have changed timelines. We're in the same place. It's the same film. It's the same car logo. It's just not what we physically remember.
Right.
And for the mainstream narrative to diss the Mandela effect is confirmation that we were from a different reality. Because I'm sure in that other reality we would be confirming Mandela effects.
Sean had asked up above if sometime we would talk about aliens and things along those lines.
Well, I've kind of realized with the TV programming that we've had, with so many films that we've seen, they've wanted to create an image of what an alien is.
Right.
And I think they've done that very well. You know, I think they've put us on a completely whole different direction. I think they're, you know, they may possibly have sold their technology that has always been here. It's always been here. It's just been that there has been so many resets that we don't even know about. Just by looking at the geology of Earth, we can see that the Earth has been through quite a lot of shit in the past. Yet we're sitting pretty on her, as if nothing's happened. Well, all that time ago, the technology was here. It's only taken 200 years to go from horse and cart to a hadron collider to find out the God particle, and to say that we know how the Big Bang happened. Only 250 years. Yet we can't build the buildings and cathedrals like that are still standing now. And they were building them without the technology that we have today, we're told, with horse and cart and mud roads. The road infrastructure wasn't even built for some of these cathedrals. So could these cathedrals be there from a previous reset? And we are just almost introduced to a new area. Like, let's just say the exhibitions that were thrown around at the turn of the centuries, where new worlds were being built overnight. And then the public came along and started to live there. But who's to say that those buildings were already here?
Right.
And we've just inhabited them. And that generation after generation called them their own.
Let's see. Debs was mentioning your channel. It says check out.
Yeah. But it's an alternative look at what, an observation.
Right. Gonna have to wrap things up in a minute.
Yeah.
Sniper?
Yeah. Good thing, Sean. So there's been objects uncovered like wheels that come 4,000 years ago. It can't be explained. Exactly. I mean, there's a great book written by Charles Fort called The Book of the Damned. And you will find some phenomena in there that just cannot be explained. Like tools and jewelry that are found in coal veins 2 miles down. Miners finding random stuff in coal veins. And they're literally a piece of coal that comes home. And at the time it was a big lump, and you used to knock the coal off into smaller lumps to put in the fire. They were finding little children's toys and dolls in the rock, in the coal.
Miss Flipper wants to hear about creation sometime. Be an interesting talk for us. Creation myths across time, across different places, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. Well, Göbekli Tepe. What's interesting about that is that the statues found in Göbekli Tepe are almost identical. The way that the hands are wrapped around the statue to the heads on the islands of Easter Island. Now, the distance between the two is ridiculous. Yet, it's an effigy as the same of what they're trying to portray on who these people were. And they were trying to depict, I think they were trying to depict who we call the Anunnaki, or those that, held the tablets, as what they say,
Right.
Those that came from the mountain many years ago, the first to have beards. You'll see the effigies of great gods with a long beard, basically. Supposedly the Anunnaki, Inky,
right,
the alchemist. Yeah, we could delve into that at some point.
Lots of stuff. Maybe on a upcoming live stream, uh, I'll ask what topics
Yeah,
do you want to address. We're gonna have a part 2 of Dowsing, though, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll come up with that.
And let's see. So, guys, think about it. Sniper, it's usually going to be on Tuesdays, but things were switched around.
Yeah,
Regular.
unfortunately, I was a bit busy last night.
So think about topics that you want to talk about. Kat says so much good information. Really, really good, Sniper. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kat. I hope it came over as informative.
Sean says, I like this channel. I watch occasionally. Does the guest have a YouTube channel also? He
I certainly
does.
do. Yeah.
Um,
You type in Squirrel Sniper 138, you'll find me.
let's see. Carl says he's never been on a panel. Carl, if you want to come up and talk about your alien experience, come on up. If you want to talk about Ireland, if you want to come up and talk about trains,
I'd love to hear Cole's explanation of what he saw.
oh, yep. Deb just says, I love the Sniper, right up my alley.
I
Environment
think
about
your mum would love that environment.
you think
She
so?
would absolutely love it. Yeah. I think you should. It would bring all those memories back to her. Trust me.
Ali says, you are a world of knowledge, Sniper. Thank you.
Pleasure. As I
Yes.
say, it's not for me to, I said this to you before, it's never to impress, it's always to inspire. So if I've dropped any kind of seeds, hopefully you can just pick them up and go with them. If you didn't enjoy it, then just shrug your shoulders and say tomorrow's going to be a better life. But
Yep.
of
Miss Flipper says, don't mind when I call you Chipmunk, I hope.
course you don't. Of course you don't.
Tiger King
That's
wants to know when he can come up and talk about his addiction. I don't know, Tiger King. I keep inviting you. Have you gotten your haircut yet? Cat drops your link. Sean, Cat and Jack
Thank
just
you,
dropped
Kat.
Sniper's link. Alibert says, very inspiring. We will have Odom up tomorrow evening talking about addiction, recovery, heartbreak, and gardening, and answering all questions about figs. If you have fig questions.
Figs.
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 Yep.
Yeah, I'll have a few questions on figs.
Odom is the
There's a
man.
few. There's quite a few varieties of figs, if I remember rightly.
There are, and he will
Yeah.
mention them, and he'll tell you the best ones to eat. Carl says everyone would leave Yogi's channel if I start talking. I bet you they wouldn't, Carl. I bet you you'd have a lot of friends very fascinated. All right, so I'm going to wrap things up.
Beautiful.
So
I'll jump in the chat. Say goodbye.
Okay. Thank you, Cypher.
No problem.
It's a great conversation. Very much appreciated. I appreciate everything Cypher does. I asked Odom that. Not all figs have worms in them, Miss Flipper. Some don't. Those are the ones that vegans can eat. Alibert says, no, we wouldn't, Carl. No way, 100%. Oh, Carl says he's only talking his live stream. Well, you can think about it. You have a standing invitation. If you ever want to come up, please let me know. Cass says, dang, Miss Flipper. Because I asked, I remember telling Odom, I like figs, but I can't eat them anymore as a vegan. And he said, oh, no, that's not all of them. Blue Moon Tiger King, we've had this conversation before. I won't keep having it. Fireman says, true, vegans can't eat worms. And not be vegans. Our resident fig expert, Odom's Garden, Odom's Homestead. He'll be up tomorrow evening. Debster says, hi, it's just timing. You and he need to get together on. Absolutely, Debster. Thank you. Hey, Lucy. Star of the day. Stars of the day. Lucy and Sniper. You guys made my channel for me today. Thank you so much. Miss Pippa says, look forward to it. Yep, we're going to talk about recovery. Carl says, I'll be around for Lucy to ask her a question. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Carl, I believe that's 6 o'clock for you. So it'll be about an hour before, no, it'll be about 2 hours, I think, before you're live. So that should work out pretty well. Nope. Blue Moon, I don't know. I keep inviting you, and then you keep saying no. Deborah says it's between you two, so I don't know, Tiger. Yep. Right now, I'm getting booked up. I'm going to have people almost every day. So I don't know what to tell you, my friend. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, Carl. I don't know why you can't go live. You got shorts up now. You got 61 subscribers. I'm sorry. Looking forward to be able to go live again. We definitely worked for you to get you there by tomorrow. Maybe it'll go through by tomorrow. Maybe it'll just be that right timing. All right, guys, I got to go to bed. It's a little late for me. Thank you so much, Cypher. Thank you for making this such an enjoyable, informative evening. Guys, thank you for those great questions and the conversation. Thank you for showing up for Lucy, guys. Tiger King says, even then, sorry, then Eric. It's okay, Tiger King. I'll keep asking on those moments when I'm free, and if you want coming up, it's probably going to be spontaneous. Fireman says, good night, Yogi. Good night, my friend. Cat says, good night, and thank you, Yogi. Good night, Cat. Dipsy says, I just slept from a nap. I'm going to bed. Lucy sends some unicorn vibes to Cat, her favorite person, who she likes. I think she said 4% better than me. I think Lucy came up with a mathematical formula of how much percentage-wise she likes Cat more than me. To anyone else, I might have taken exception to that, but I can fully understand why anyone would like Cat more than me. Again, I like Cat more than me. We're gonna make it work, Carl. We're gonna make it work for you. Dipsy says crazy moon and eclipse energy. Gotcha. Lucy's laughing. Love you, Cat. It's because you're both redheads. You're sticking together. Dipsy says it's dream in the dream world. Make it what you want. Lucy says, love you, Eric. Love you too, Lucy. Thanks, guys. I will see everyone tomorrow, 5 a.m. Come by and hang out if you want to. We will be talking, I don't know what we're talking about, but it'll probably be Course in Miracles related. Lucy's going to pull cards. Odom's going to come up afterwards. Friday, we'll go through it again. Friday is my friend Randy Creel, who is a ultra runner who used ultra running, plant-based diet, barefoot running to cure himself from cancer. It's going to be a great talk. It's a friend of mine. Gave me a great book review, by the way. And Saturday's going to be Goga, his journey. Yoga as a journey through grief. Lumen says, how Cats. This one's popped out right next to me. She'll move when I get up. She'll go to bed with me probably. Cat says, Carl, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you too, Carl. So there you go. You got two people. I bet you Debster loves you too, Carl. Sniper loves you. I bet you our friend Blue Moon Tiger King loves you. Hey, Jacob. Jacob, I'm sorry I didn't see you come in, my friend. I apologize. I bet you Allie loves you too, Carl. And Lucy. I know Lucy loves you. Blue Moon says, Cat, you number one, Eric? She is. Not going to lie about that. All right. Good night, you guys. There you go. Lucy says, I love you, Carl. Me too. Deb, sir, there she goes. Deb says, yes, we all do, Carl. Blue Moon shows it right there. It says, Carl, I hope you're okay. I hope you feel it, Carl. I hope you feel that we very much sincerely love you. Carl says, Cat's live in 8 hours. I'll be there. As long as I get to sleep now. Sweating his smile and says, I love you all. Love you too, Adam. Keep looking for Nemo, my friend. Love you guys.